This is Q, Street Corner Colonel Corn Pop. Well, like I said, I do stand-up comedy. I live here in Southeast Georgia, and yeah, it blows my mind constantly how right-wingers are the face of stand-up. Like I actually had a conversation this weekend at a bar about this, and a buddy of mine I didn't know, he has a friend who's currently touring with Joe Rogan, and he says, like, you know, that the guy doesn't even like Joe or his politics, but like he kind of has to eat shit to make it. And that sucks. That's so awful, you know? And I don't even know where that came from, how it's gotten to the point where right-wingers have dominated, you know, the idea that comedy is, you know, the left can't do comedy, the left can't do, you know, anything pop culture related. They make it seem like if the left touches it, it's ruined, but like all the good shit is made by leftists, you know?
Even still, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that the far right isn't really interested in comedy. They're only interested in comedians, and they're only interested in comedians once they start doing like really like fucked up shit, because they like the power that being a comedian, they feel like it gives them, a la Rush Limbaugh, where it's like, if you just say everything that you say after is a joke, then no one is technically in their minds allowed to be mad at you, and the kind of troll logic that makes like the internet run, where like if you make people mad, it means you lose. Where in reality, like in the real world, when you have like real people around you, making people mad on purpose is not a good way to, you know, develop friendships. So like they just have to adopt this opinion of themselves that they're a comedian to justify why no one's allowed to take them seriously when they don't want to be taken seriously, but they should still be allowed to be, you know, platform for any single thing that they want to talk about. It's a very like weird dynamic that they have with comedy, because they don't like jokes. They don't like telling jokes, making jokes. They just like, I think they confuse having like a sense of humor for being funny, which is different.
Well, I think also there's also I think there's an inherent dishonesty on the part of the performer, because anyone who's ever been on a stage and has it, you don't even have to be good, but as soon as you touch a microphone, you know immediately you have the room, right? And at that point, it's up to you to do what you want with that power. And I'm a big old nerd, so I tend to like, you know, use a lot of pop culture analogies and shit. So I call it the Uncle Ben principle of comedy. Like, with great power comes great responsibility. So there's no, and like, especially a comedian like Chappelle, who kind of made his bones on talking about, you know, he can, when it comes to racial, you know, I guess racial humor or just anything racial in general, he's pretty sharp, and he's, you know, obviously gives a shit. His whole, you know, one of the best examples of this is when he did his 843 one, the one where he talked about George Floyd, and he tore Candace Owens a brand new asshole. And I watched it in real time as like so many right wingers. Man, I used to love Dave. He fell off. Blah blah blah. This is disrespectful. Now those same motherfuckers are like, man, we love Dave. He never left. And it's just like, what the fuck? Yeah. What the fuck is this? What the fuck? And I've met Chappelle. Like, I've met him, and I will say, this is like post Chappelle show. Just got back from Africa. I'm doing secret tours. It was one of the best like shows I've ever been to, and I met him afterwards, and he was kind beyond description, because I had a friend, I grew up in this, like, the local area. I had a friend who got in the Army, was injured, lost both his legs, and I was telling Dave this week so he could sign something, and Dave was like, let's go visit your friend. And that was cool as shit. Like, he didn't know me from anyone, mind you, and I wasn't even like performing at the time, so I was just like a nobody. I was just a fan. But granted, that was 15 years ago, but at this point, a lot of that goodwill, it's like, I don't defend him anymore, and it's getting to a point where I'm starting to actively dislike him, and I fucking hate that, because he is, any young black comedian, and I say young, like 40 under, he's probably influenced. And it's like, dog, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. This is gross.
All right,
and embarrassing and shameful.
Q, we're going to hang up, and Brandon, you can say that, but appreciate the call.
Yeah,
absolutely. You guys have a good one.
Have a good one. I was gonna say, you know, with Dave Chappelle and like Dave Chappelle and also Joe Rogan, I feel like with comedians and just maybe celebrities in general, people in general, people like stagnate at their peak. And when you talk about people like Joe Rogan and Dave Chappelle, you get this feeling that they missed when it was 2005, and there was just a certain type of humor that was common that they trafficked in very, you know, I don't say loosely or like not uncritically, but they just trafficked in. And now that humor has changed, and they have not, they are becoming grumpy old men who, instead of doing jokes, complain about the fact that the jokes that they want to do and they would have done 17 years ago won't get the laughs that they used to. And that's just not a real. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you, dog, things change, you know. So maybe he shouldn't have given up on the Chappelle show when he had it, because it seems as though that's what he wants to go back to doing. But like, that's just, you know, that's the reality of what happened. And like, we can't all go back to 2007 because you want to.
Yeah.
You know,
Also,
it's just,
like,
it's just what it is.
That's all their content is. Like, to the extent that Chappelle like leans more right these days, like it's all complaining about shit.
Yeah.
And like it's like, we had 3 straight fucking sets by the guy talking about trans people in a way that it was not illuminating. And I think he is an extremely great comic, but like I think there's also really other great comics out there. I think Cat Williams is funnier than Chappelle, and he also avoids a lot of that bullshit. Also, Stavros Halkias' new special is very funny.
I was watching that too. It popped up for me on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, some people develop and some people don't develop, and some people don't become are uncomfortable when you point out that they haven't really developed. I mean, look at Adam Sandler. Some of his movies, like Jack and Jill, and like the ones that he shits out on Netflix, are like garbage, and they're things that maybe if it was 2005 when like the Zookeeper was coming out, people would have been in the movie theater seeing it. But at least he has the decency for every like garbage movie he turns out to like do an Uncut Gems. That's an Oscar bait thing to kind of balance it out. None of these people are interested in like even putting in the effort for anything that like shows that they understand that things have changed. So, I mean, what can you say? Like, you eventually will just leave them behind, like we left other people behind.
And Sandler, who by all accounts like is like a Republican, is also like not pushing a political project in his movies. I can at least appreciate that also. The only really political thing is one time in one of his movies, I can't remember if it's Big Daddy or Little Nicky or one of them, he had like a very like fawning cameo from Rudy.
I mean, they're very sexist. His movies are all.
I guess I mean
homophobic.
I guess I mean specifically like a Chappellean like pointed.
Like I listened to him on Bill Simmons, and Simmons tried to bait him into the "you can't make any jokes these days" thing, and Sandler was in business mode saying, it's actually a good thing. It makes you think about your jokes a lot more concisely, and it's better for everybody. And it's like, you know what? I don't know if you definitely believe that, Adam, but I appreciate you saying it.
He's about his business.
Right.
He's more about making the money that comes from those Netflix deals than he is about like stoking controversy for the sake of getting on a show that won't necessarily translate to another multi-million-dollar business deal. There's only so much room for so many Dave Chappelles, and like it's not like a thing that everyone is going to be able to like recreate. So it's probably not worth like ruining your career over it.
Right. It sort of shows, too, that there's like 2 sides here where you can actually make money being a comedian. You could just be really funny and have really great material, or you can take the Adam Sandler route and just crank out funny for his audience, yet non-controversial stuff and still make tons of money. You don't have to go the Dave Chappelle route, even if you don't have any talent anymore. You can find other ways.
Well, I would never advocate being funny, but definitely those are options.